Welcome to Diary of an Unemployed Actor with me, Milo Dennison. Each week I speak with up-and-coming actors, actresses, and filmmakers about the entertainment industry. We discuss success, failure, and share a few tips to inspire those of you who have a passion for the creative arts. This week I'm speaking with Paul Kandarian. He is a very inspirational person to talk to, and I really hope you enjoy this episode because he didn't really get into acting until in his 50s. So he was a writer prior to that, so still being creative. And he kind of always had this dream of being an actor and tried out for a play and got cast as the lead in the play with no experience. So for those of you out there that are like worried of like, oh, I don't know, I'm getting a little older, probably too old for this or whatever. No, you're not. It worked for him. And even though he had to, figure out stage direction and all that fun stuff and blocking, he figured it out and found out that he loves it and now does stage theater, does films, does all kinds of great stuff. And he's written a couple shows. One of them is a personal experience about his son that I think it is also very inspiring, and I think hopefully you'll get something out of that as well. And he's just got some great stories about the people that he's met in his life. That's one of the interesting things about talking to someone that's got a few more years on you, is that they've lived more and they have some great stuff to talk about. And so, I don't know, we just kind of sit back, we swap stories about why doing what you love is much more valuable than doing something you hate just for the money, which is why I think of a lot of us have entered this field of entertainment and acting, where we're often more unemployed than we are employed. So sit back and enjoy this discussion with Paul Kandarian. What's interesting about you is you got into acting a bit later than most, which is an interesting story. So you went down and were doing something with a play and then decided to audition. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was doing a story on this. He was the then new artistic director at Trinity Repertory Company in Providence, which is one of the few, if not the only rep company left in the country. But he came from Steppenwolf in Chicago. And I had always wanted to be an actor. And so I started hanging around with him, going to shows and just watching people, just what the machinations of theater. And I said, what am I waiting for? What the hell am I waiting for? I just never had the courage to try it. And that gave me the courage to try it. And the bug bit hard. And I've been at it ever since.
What was that play?
The play I saw there,
or was the one that you auditioned for? Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. That was Later Life.
I see. So you didn't audition for that play. You were interviewing him, and then that motivated you to audition for another play.
Yeah.
Got
Later
it, okay.
Life, yeah. And then I went to see like the Cherry Orchard at Trinity Rep, and one of the actors they came in from the sides from the lobby area, and one of the actors was standing right next to me, and I could see like the hair on his arms and his nostrils were flaring, and I swear I almost cried because it was so electric and so immediate. I said, what power this medium has, on people to evoke that kind of response. And it was just, I've got to try this. I've just got to do it. I don't know why I denied myself all those years. I think I just feared failure, and I don't like doing things unless I'm good at it. So I just tried it and I found out I'm fairly good at it, and it's been a great ride ever since.
Well, I'm curious what that first audition was like when you just kind of went down there, having no experience, and then them handing you a script and basically, hey, read this.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it because I was sitting in a group of other people, including a couple of guys that I was competing with. And it just felt real and good and normal. It just felt, I was reading somebody else's words, pretending to be this character. This character's name was Austin in the play. Austin from Boston, oddly enough. And it's just reading it. And it felt like a completion of some sort. Like I was pretending to be somebody else. My whole life, I've always pretended to be other people, just joking around, making people laugh or whatever, just, class clown sort of thing. And then when I was reading this, it gave legitimacy to acting out. I mean, all those years as a goofball, It just gave that sense of, like I said, legitimacy. I said, so this is what it feels like to be someone else in a setting where you have permission to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And they gave me the lead, and it was phenomenal. I got out on stage, and it was like, I think I alluded to in the email. I asked the lady who was going out ahead of me, I said, my heart's in my throat. Is that normal? She goes, no, I don't think so. And she smiled and went out, and I laughed, and I got out there, and all the nerves went away. And it just felt like this is the place I should have been my whole life. But, you come to things when you come to them. So I've been making, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because it's true too, because you might be off stage and your kind of heart's racing, but as soon as you're out there in that zone,
Yeah.
none of that matters. And
No.
you're so focused on what you're doing. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, it's just, you're an actor too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, what a feeling.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's like an honor and a privilege to do that, to take people somewhere else, just to get them out of their own world for a little while and take them into yours. It's a privilege that we don't take lightly.
Was it stressful being that's your first play and you're in a major role in your first play, and you don't have the experience? Like, so I'm just thinking even stage directions, right? So if the director's like, okay, I need you to go stage left, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, is that this way?
I know, exactly. Yeah. Because when we started rehearsing, and they said, we're going to go over blocking like tomorrow. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what's blocking? I had no idea what it was. They said, that's where they tell you where to stand. I said, oh, that would be helpful. Because if you're not used to theater or film even, and you just see people walking, and now I'm really obnoxious. I'll point out to my girlfriend, I said, see that guy walking over there? He just wasn't walking randomly. They told him where to go.
Yep.
And there's so many moving parts to a play in film. Yeah, and it was all new to me. And it still feels new in so many ways, even though I've done like dozens of films and bunches of plays. There's just a newness to it. And there's an earnest embrace of the entire process. I like play rehearsals. I don't like film rehearsals so much. I think it kind of robs a little of the spontaneity, but just play rehearsals. I like to go to rehearsals sometimes when I'm not even needed, just to watch other people do it. So hopefully that newness, it's like a new hobby you get, and it's like you just want to devour everything. It still feels that way. It's been 12 years now. So
That's great.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just from my experience as well, like, it doesn't go away because you've got a new production and
Yeah.
a new cast that you're working with. And
Yeah.
so in a lot of ways it's new, even though you might be doing the same show night after night for a while, it's still that that rehearsal process and that excitement of that opening night. And that kind of stuff is fantastic.
And I've always said this. I mean, an audience is a living, breathing organism, and it changes when you change. It's just different every night. You know this. I mean, some nights you deliver a line and they raucous laughter, and the next night it's just crickets. So how does that happen? It's the same joke. It's the same way, just a different organism sitting out there taking it all in.
Yeah. Have you ever had a situation where you blanked on a line or tripped over a stage prop or something like that during a show?
Yeah, I've balked on a few lines here and there, and I think one time, you skip an entire page, and you just kind of like pick up the pieces and go on. But and as you know, this the director will say later, the audience, they don't know unless they know the play specifically, the scene by scene or whatever. They don't know. And I've been to plays that I didn't know, and I could tell, but I think as an actor, you just kind of know. So I know something screwed up there. I know they did something, but they're covering. So, and you're just pulling for them at that point. But sure, yeah, I think we've all gone up. One of the funniest things I've seen was at Trinity Rep, and Angela Scaria, I think her name is. She's just a legendary actress in the New England area. She stopped, and she was like, kind of like looking around, and then she gave the line, and she just looked out at the crowd and said, bet you thought I forgot, huh? She's totally broke fourth wall, but she's a riot. So she got away. Everybody laughs. It was hilarious.
It's nice that certain people can do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she can get away with it. Yeah.
It's worth it. It's okay.
Yeah.
So you were a writer, and is that, because I know you did some work with Richard Saul Wurman, founder of the TED conference.
Yeah.
Is that what got you working with him? Like, how'd that relationship start?
Yeah. That started in 2001. I write a lot for Rhode Island Monthly Magazine, doing long form profiles. And he, at the time, was living in Newport, Rhode Island. And my editor said, go talk to this guy. You probably never heard of him. he became my catchline. He's the most famous guy you've never heard of, because TED conferences he hadn't sold them yet. He was still running them. He sold them in 2002, I think, for like a boatload of cash. But he just knew everybody, and he was so connected. And I just met with him for a few hours, and then talked to a whole bunch of other people who knew him. And he's he's not really curmudgeonly. He's an interesting, unique, kind of eccentric character, but he's brutally honest to a fault. If he thinks you're an asshole, he'll say, I think you're an asshole. It's just he's just got this wonderful upfrontness about him. And he did the story, and in most times, if you do a story on people and they like it, you never hear from them. If they don't like something, they'll call you. It's like the negative always gets the attention. But he called and said, "I got to tell you," he said, you got me. So you're one of the few people who, I met with for just a few hours, and you totally understood me. So then he started contacting me to do stuff. And this is the third book we've done together. And I've been to a couple of his conferences, because he trusts me to interpret his mindset. He tends to dictate a lot of stuff, or he'll send me transcripts on his thoughts or other people talking about him. I will translate into English what Richard Saltwerman says, because he's a brilliant guy, but you just got to kind of rein him in once in a while. So yeah, we've kept in touch. I just talked to him the other day, and now this book, Mortality, it's a book he did with Nigel Holmes, is one of the world's preeminent graphic designers. He was one of the first ones to do graphic design in London, in England, for the Time magazine in London, I think, way back in the day. And it's just a bunch of facts, figures, diagrams, drawings about death around the world, the rituals of death, what it's called in different parts of the world, how we die, where we die, when we die. It's a remarkable book. It's 120 pages, I think. And I did a lot of the writing and editing for that. And now these friends of mine who live in Rhode Island, and they're a production and like a branding company, we're trying to get a proposal together to pitch something to Netflix for like a documentary series on just picking apart, taking the page out of the book and just doing something on, how people die, where they die, the rites, the rituals of death, things like that. And Richard, he's on board with it. So hopefully that'll come to fruition sooner than later.
Yeah, well, having his name behind it probably helps.
Oh yeah, well, we don't have to really do it with his backing, but it would help a great deal because he's the name and we're not. Yeah. He's known by everybody. This guy, it's ridiculous how many people he knows. When he did the TED conferences, he would just pick up the phone and call Steve Jobs directly and say, "I need 200 Macs," and Steve would say, "Okay, fine." It's nuts, and you tell people that and they tend not to believe it, but the guy's virtually connected to everybody. He knows Bill Gates's number. I walked into his office one day when he was still in Newport. He lives in Florida now. And he's on the phone. He said, yeah, wait a second. He's talking to Norman Lear, giving Norman Lear advice on how to do some sort of conference. And he put it on speakerphone, just kind of, I think he was just showing off a little bit. Like, yeah, this is Norman Lear. Yeah.
Look who I'm talking to.
Yeah. Herbie Hancock used to stop by his house once in a while when he was in town. I went to his conference. He did a thing called EG, Entertainment Gathering, in LA at the Skirball Center years ago. And I went, and walking up on one of the tiers up top, and people just come and show up and do things. It's scheduled, but some of the people who were there just hang around to watch the proceedings. And I stepped over somebody sleeping up on the floor way in the back, and it was Yo-Yo Ma taking a nap on the floor in the Skirball Center. And then I go to the bathroom. Sidney Poitier comes walking out of the bathroom, and I'm not awestruck by many people, but Sidney Poitier, I was like, oh my God. So he just did that stuff. And now he's 85, he'll be 86 soon, and he's reinventing himself constantly. He's been an artist and a cartographer. He loves maps and a graphic designer, of course. But he's now doing sculpture. He's never done sculpture before. Now he's doing sculpture. Huge museum in Miami Beach is having a big exhibit of his this year, just because he's good and because he is who he is.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing character. I love the guy. He's the closest thing to a mentor that I've ever had. And virtually so many things that he said, and I've told him a million times, is, Richard, you haven't changed my life so much as you affirmed it, because he's leading a life and done things that have been kind of the way I've been going all along. I'm just not famous, but it's just giving yourself permission to do the things that you love to do. And he always said that. I say the same thing. People say, how do you have such an interesting life? I said, have an interesting day. And then, you have one day and another day, get up and do what you love to do. Pretty soon you have an interesting life.
Yeah.
It's just the way we all design our lives. We design everything about our lives, whether we mean to or not. And that's another thing I learned from him.
It's interesting because that reminded me of something that you said in your email of some people collect things. I collect experiences, the soul of life. And I think that's amazing because I feel the same way. I've got friends of mine, they work so that they can buy a bigger TV or, this kind of stuff. And it's funny. And I'm like, I'd rather, I don't need a giant TV. I'd rather actually go somewhere and do something interesting. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm here. It's like, let's go to London and live in London for a few years. That'd be great. Or let's do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's those experiences because at the end of the day, when you're laying on your deathbed, speaking of death, is going to be like, you're not going to be thinking about, oh, I had that thing that was great. It was, I did this thing that was great.
Yeah. And hopefully we have the faculties to remember all of it too at that point. No, it's just, it's amazing. And I know people who make money at stuff they hate doing.
Yeah.
So friend of mine, I play hockey too, and I play hockey. I just played this morning, as a matter of fact. And this guy, he's in insurance. He has his own one-man insurance agency, I guess. And his wife's a union dentist in Boston. And they hate their jobs. They absolutely hate them. Hate them. He's counting the days to retirement. I said, if you could quit today and do what you'd love to do, what would that be? He said, well, like carpentry. I love to build things. I said, then fucking do it.
Yeah.
He said, no, we need the money. And I stopped him and said, you know what people never say? We need the happy. Nobody says that. It's always, well, we need the money for this. We need the money for that. What currency is better than being happy? But so many people just put that aside and chasing the almighty dollar. I'm broke. I'll be broke probably, maybe. But I mean, I try to manifest money to come into my life. But I don't care. I'm just having a good time, and I'm doing what I love to do and what I think I'm good at. And it helps other people. I mean, you entertain other people. That's a good feeling.
Yeah. And it gives you something to leave behind as well. Those memories for people as well.
Yeah. I think so many people just take the path they think they should take, or other people suggest they take. And then they wake up someday and realize, what the hell happened? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? But so many, the majority of them just say, well, stick it out, but people like you and I, like, fuck no, I'm not going to stick it out. I got to do what makes me happy. Yeah. I just realized I swore. I don't know if I'm.
You can swear on this podcast.
Okay. All right. It's a podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Of course.
It's just, you gotta, man, I always tell, and that's why doing movies now, it's predominantly with younger people because I'm older. Everybody's younger, but the young filmmakers, they're just so much fun to work with because they're eager and they're earnest and they're involved and they're focused and determined. And I just love working with young people because some reason they kind of look to me as an older guy with experience and they can help them or whatever. And I love it. And I just tell them, whatever you do, the only voice that matters is your own. Just follow your own heart, nobody else's, because that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And they seem to like that kind of affirmation. Because if I had realized this when I was their age, I'd have been doing this, for the last 40 years now. But again, you just come to things when you come to it. But you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you got to be happy. If you're not happy, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Like you go home miserable every night, then
cash your check. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Do you find because you're 60 something? 67. Is that okay for me to say?
Yeah.
Is it okay to out you for your age?
Yeah, it's a lot of actors don't like that. What do I care? So I'm getting roles for older guys. So
yeah, well, that's what I was wondering. So do you find your age is helpful or a hindrance to being cast?
It's helpful, but and it also is helpful that you're good at what you do, right? But no, because I'm always getting casting notices about older guys, doctors, lawyers, grandfathers, or whatever, and or dementia patients. I've done that a few times. So I think it's very helpful, and it's patently unfair that not as many older women get as many chances as older men. It's just an unfairness rampant in the industry, I think. I don't know how to change that, but I'm just going along for the ride. Definitely there's a call for older guys with a look, and people say you got to look. You could be this. You could be a murderer. You could be a nice guy, a bad guy, or whatever. So, yeah. And that's the beauty of acting, isn't it? You just get to play so many characters and things that you're not in real life.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, you get to
wonderful.
have fun with them.
Oh man, just put up. Speaking of wearing a mask to Erin now, but putting on a mask, a theatrical mask, is it's a great feeling.
So I wanted to ask you about creating outreach about addiction support. So that's a drama therapy group. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Creating outreach about addiction support together. It's coast.org with 2 A's. So in case anybody wants to look it up. But I was on a film set 7 years ago. The young woman who at the time was a drama therapy major at NYU. And she said she was starting this group. I don't even know if it had a name, but it was going to use drama therapy. And at the time, my son was going through a raging addiction himself. Knock wood, he's 7 years sober now in long-term recovery. But I said, yeah, if you do it, let me know. And then a year or so later, she said, yeah, I'm putting this thing together. We're going to do a play. It's called 4 Legs to Stand On. And it's about a family, a child's addiction. It takes place around a table. It's a 25-minute play. And so I did it. I auditioned, got the part. And then I wanted to beef up the father's part because he was just kind of in the scene, but he really wasn't active. So I wrote a monologue for the father and pretty much incorporated everything, not everything, but so much of what my son and I had been through, the fights we had and the helplessness and desperation that I felt as a father of an addicted person. And it was great. We did the first year all over the place. We did it for like thousands of school children in Rhode Island and beyond. We've done it at the Russell Senate building in DC a couple of years ago for Elizabeth Warren and aides and staffers to see it. And I'm trying to think of other places we've done it. We did it in a bunch of places down in New York. We did it there, but it's taken on legs of its own. And now there's a second part, 4 Legs to Stand On Part 2, about the kid, the child, could be a son or a daughter, it's interchangeable, going to therapy. So it's a support group setting. And there are no easy answers. There is no neat ribbon to tie it all up. And there's a lot of uncertainty with it because that's the way addiction works. You don't know how this is going to work out. So what it does, it promotes discussion. So we have talkbacks after the most important part of the whole show. And people come to a safe place to see it and take part in this healing by community. Because I always say we hurt as a community, we heal as a community. And again, it's permission giving. People can come and just let it out, just say whatever they feel, how they feel. And then COVID came along and kind of knocked the whole thing askew. But last year, the year before, my son and I, through Harvard Medical School, they have a thing called Health Story Collaborative. And they interviewed he and I separately. They just asked questions about our combined journey through his addiction to recovery, because I'm pretty much the only one who kind of stuck by him. So we went through absolute hell together. And so we wrote these long essays, and then they and the gal, Anna Bess Moyer Bell is her name, who started Coast. They wove the essays we wrote into a narrative. It's like a 45 minute play, a two-man play, the father and the son, just to talk about how it happened from childhood all the way up through recovery. My son's a veteran, so he talks about that, and it's incredibly powerful. It's a warts and all look at addiction and the impact it has on a father and son. And it's by far it's the most important acting I will ever do, because it's from my heart. And it's a story so familiar, tragically familiar to so many people. We did it. Another actor played my son, and we did it at Harvard. We did it at Boston College, and a couple other places. And then COVID hit, so it's been on the shelf for a while. But I want to get it on its feet, either through Coast or separately or on my own or whatever, because it's an extraordinarily powerful bit of theater. And it's true. I mean, you go to see theatrical productions, they're false, not false, but they're fiction. They're narratives of, it's a story, but this is a real story. And it plays out as a play because it looks like a play, but it's the honest to God stuff that happened to my son and I. And I thought I lost him any number of times. So it's basically that father's desperation and helplessness, and the son's inability to get a hold of the demons that are controlling him. And then long story short, he finally got help at the VA in Providence, Rhode Island. And now he works at a center working with other people with addiction. He's an intake person. So he's a therapist. It's working with people. And as happens a lot with, they don't call it addiction anymore, substance use disorder. But as it happens, people who turn their lives around give back by helping other people. And that's what he's doing. And he just loves doing it. So
yeah, you hear a lot of stories about people that when they recover, because they then want to help others in the same boat. With that one, did you do the QAs after the show as well, like you did with the other one?
Yeah. And it really, it is the most compelling part of the whole thing, I think, because, I mean, you're doing a production, you know where you come from in doing it, you know where your heart and your mind is in it, but then you hear other people's stories, and people have gotten up and told stories of triumph, you know, my son or whatever recovered and this and that, and you hear horrible stories. Oh God, one show we did, this woman stood up and talked for like 10 minutes. She had just lost her son 9 days before. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house except hers, because she was just saying, keep doing this. You're really doing it. We need to do stuff like this. And we're on stage and we're like the 4 actors, like weeping, and everybody else is. But she was so strong and so stoic. And she used that horrible experience of her own to try to help other people too, saying, just keep going, keep doing this, keep doing this.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love it. I love the talkbacks later, because it's genuine. You know, it's really, it opens your mind and your heart to so many things that people are going through. And it, as a father who'd been through this, you feel like you're alone. Like in any tragic situation, you feel like you're the only one who's going through it. And you realize, no, there's a million people going through it. And that gives them permission to feel what they're feeling, because then they know they're not alone. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I love doing it.
Since you're speaking from actual experience, that's going to come through so much more than
and it's the uncertainty of it too, that it's, you know, to do these things to help send a message. It tend to be like an after school special, you know, where everything's nice and neat and tied up. And at the end of Four Legs to Stand On Act 1, you know, I just give this monologue of, you know, begging the kid to get help. And I said, I just want to reach in and pull whatever's eating you, beat the shit out of it, make it go away, but I can't. It's your fight. And the kid just looks out into the audience, or, you know, he looks at us, he looks out and he says, you don't get it. You just don't get it. And that's it. It's the end of the play. Some people say, we kind of wanted a little resolution. I said, but that's the thing. There is no resolution in this battle against addiction. It can go a million different ways. So we talk about that. Where could this go? You know, what if they did this, or what if they did that? So that's the openness and the honesty of theater and the raw, I guess, as I call it. Yeah. There is no ribbon to tie it all up with. So, and that's why I love doing this, because there's no ending. It just keeps going. You know?
Have you ever thought about turning it into like a short film or anything?
Yeah.
Like that?
Oh yeah. We've talked about that. Yeah. I think it all comes down to funding too, because we're a nonprofit, and like we had CDC funding one year, dried up the next, and so you never know. So that's why I just would love to get this, the play my son and I wrote, it's called Resurfacing. I'd love to get that on its feet and just take it out and just, you know, hit up big corporations with you know, deep wellness pockets, I guess, to stage these things, or sponsor us and take it around the country. I'd be the happiest guy on earth if I could do that.
Yeah, you should be able to. I mean, if you set it up as a nonprofit, I mean, companies are always looking for, you know, tax write-off donations. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, the acting world, we're actors, we're not marketers. So it's like, how do we do this stuff? I don't know. I don't know. So you got to like hire somebody. How do you hire somebody if you don't have the money to hire them, sort of thing? Well, you know, but I'm the world's worst marketer of branding myself or getting myself out there other than Facebook. Because I just give me the script and tell me what to do and I'll do it. That's what I do, you know.
Tell me where to stand and we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what to say and how to do. I don't know. But yeah, there's just so much to the acting game that actors aren't good at. It's like I did a story on doctors a few years ago, and they were talking about the one thing they don't teach you in medical school is how to be a business person. You have to go to get an MBA for that separately from medical school, because they don't go into that. They tell you how to be a doctor. Well, it's like acting too. I know how to act. I just don't know how to sell it. Aside from, you know, I have an agent and I go on backstage and answer all these ads. Yeah, we suck at that stuff. We suck at marketing. I mean, I don't, you're out there, you're doing good stuff, but
Well, no, I don't know. I stuck at it just as much as
okay.
anybody else. I mean, no, I do a little bit, but
Yeah.
but it's true. They don't teach you business in theater school.
Yeah.
And that is a key aspect because you are a business. You're your own business. You're a self-employed business owner
Yeah.
marketing yourself. And so how do you do that? How do you, and especially with performers, how do you stand out from somebody
Yeah.
else? Because I mean, in this industry, there's thousands of people just like you out there,
Yeah.
and so much of it's based on just luck and being in the right place at the right time. And so what can you do to stand out? And it is interesting that they don't think about it. And same with filmmakers. I talk to filmmakers
Yeah.
doing the show, and you talk about like they finish their film, and then it's like, okay, well, now how are you going to market it? And they're
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know, we have a Facebook page.
Yeah. No,
It's
yeah.
like, dude, that's not gonna, nobody's
I
gonna see your
know.
film.
No, I did actually did my first film. I write scripts too, and I just figured, oh hell, I might as well just do one. So I did it, and I got people involved, and and then when it was over, I said, now what? It's just like that. So what do I do with this thing? And somebody else said, well, we'll enter it in this festival, that festival. I said, okay. So I haven't heard shit about it in the last several months, and it's, I don't know, it was a decent film. It could be better because you always think that about your own stuff, but. It's like, okay, well, I'm never going to produce, never going to direct anything in, because I'm a horrible director, because I don't like telling people what to do, because I don't like to be told what to do. But yeah, I would just, people, so what are we going to do now? I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? So that's why I'm an actor. I just show up, say the lines, and go home. I always joke with people, the crew people are doing all this work. And I say, actors have the easiest thing in the world to do. We just show up, say our lines, and go home. You guys got to put all this shit away. You got to bring it out. You got to put it away. And you have to feed us. I mean, it's a lot of work involved. Acting is the easiest part of the whole production, I think. I don't know.
In a lot of ways, I mean, you do have to turn it on.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
Even if you're not in the right mindset, and there's that. But yeah, I know from being on sets, I mean, your director's constantly doing stuff. Your director of photography is like constantly, doing setups, and the whole time the actors are just kind of hanging out, having a Coke and chatting.
Yeah. So. Well, you're right. And I did theater for a number of years before I even did film. And I used to think, well, theater is the only true form of acting, and a snobby bastard that I was. And then I started doing film. I said, it's an entirely different skill set. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically exhausting for just waiting around for so long, and then having to turn it on like that. Or you go to this part of the script and then down to this part and over there. And to know the story well enough to know where your character has to be in all those different parts. It's not like it's the A to Z play where you get to build up to a situation. It's all over the place. Yeah. They change it all the time. So it's incredibly challenging. I love it. I just love that part of it. Mm-hmm. I miss the linearity of theater and the ability to tell a story, straightforward story all at once over 2 hours. But film is just, it's remarkable. It's remarkably different. It's an entirely different beast altogether. And I love feeding them both, though. It's just fun. It's fun.
Yeah, both a lot of fun in different ways. And finding. So last question for you. What advice would you give to someone starting out as an actor a few years later than most?
Theater. Go wherever you live, look up community theater and just do it, and just see what their needs are. Hopefully it's close enough. And I don't know how many thousands of community theaters there are in the country. There's a lot. So there's a lot of opportunity. So I would say start with theater, because as you know, film actors have always said this, who started in theater. So theater is the best place to start. So you really get a handle on what it's like. And also colleges and universities. I've done a number of films for Emerson College in Boston, Boston College, Harvard, a bunch of different universities. And most of them have film programs, and they need actors of all ages. I've played, grandfathers and such on that, but they need younger actors who aren't necessarily students. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just got to know where to look. So look to your local theater for that, and also local universities, or whatever places like that you can get a foot in. And then just I would suggest going to school for it, but I never did. I just I'm a learn by doing guy. Mm-hmm. And I think I alluded to this in my email too, is that I just grew up watching film and TV shows and just absorbing everything about it. particularly how actors making me feel. How are they doing what they're doing now to make me feel like this? But also, I would really check out the props in the sets and the costuming. It just all appealed to me. And I think when it came time to use all that, it was just there. I just learned by watching all this time. So people should do that too. Just see how actors do what they do, and not mimic them, not emulate them so much, but just know how they do it. The process, and it's different for everyone. But yeah, definitely start with theater. If anybody out there wants to get into acting, look up your local theater group and just hit them up, and just go for it. And don't be hamstrung by your own inhibitions or your own fear of failure, because there's nothing like failure. You should embrace failure. You should look forward to failing, because that's how we learn.
Yeah, you learn more by failing than you do by succeeding sometimes.
Yeah. If you succeeded every time out, I mean, you know this. You go to an audition, 10 auditions, you'd be lucky if you get one part,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it's nothing but failure in acting. You talk about the unemployed actor. Well, all unemployed actors, it's a funny term, because we're unemployed far more than we're employed.
Yep, you're unemployed until you get that next gig, and then you're unemployed again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have far more experience with unemployment than employment. But those little bits of employment that would keep us going. So.
Last one, if anybody wanted to track you down, like social media or website, where would they find you?
Well, it's Paul Kandarian. It's on Facebook, but my page is just paulkandarian.com. PaulKandarian.com. It took me till a few months ago to get a page. This is how bad I am at marketing. And they never even had a page. People say, where can you see your stuff? So, well, I can send you links. But so now there's a page there with the film reel and commercial reel. And I do a blog, which I don't do nearly enough. But I had to pay somebody else to do it because I couldn't do it myself. So I just finally did it. So this is one step I can take into the 21st century. Get my ass out of the Conestoga wagon. Yeah,
like I've heard about this internet thing. These websites. I should check it out.
There must email saying that new fandangle thing, ain't it? Yeah. So so that's where they can find me. Or just Google my name. I just pop up everywhere. I've been a writer for 30-something years, so I've written tons of stories. So I'm annoying. I'm all over the place.
That's the way to be. That's how people find
Yeah,
you.
no, that's exactly right. It's a good feeling too. Like maybe you know this too, when they come after you to do something that you find stuff to audition for, but when they contact you, say, would you do this? It's like, well, that feels kind of cool. So you're doing something right. So.
Well, thank you, Paul. That was very informative and interesting, and I appreciate it.
All right. Well, keep in touch, and if you hear of any job openings in London for an old guy, let me know.
I
have a passport.
If they're looking for an American in the 60s, you're who I'm recommending.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
And I love the quality of your sound equipment there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Because sometimes I get people and they're dialing in from their phone and I'm like, man, come on.
Yeah. Oh, no, I started doing voiceover too with the pandemic hit. So when I bit the bullet and bought a $400 Blue Yeti mic.
I was wondering what you're using for mic. I'm ready for an upgrade on mine, and I think I'm going to switch to the Blue Yeti as well. I mean, from what I've read online, that seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, it works great. And I had an arm like yours, but I had it hanging from the ceiling in basement here, one of the floor joists, and it kept falling off. So I just put it back on the table mount. Like, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, it's on a table mount. Yeah, so it's attached to my desk.
Yeah, I don't have a desk big enough to. There's not a lip there big enough to attach it to.
Oh, and I do have a pop filter. It's just not attached at the moment.
Yeah.
Terrible.
That's okay.